I first want to introduce myself as the host of today's conversation, Dexter Mason, and then I would love to, you all gentlemen introduce yourselves as well. But my name is Dexter Mason, calling, from Detroit, which is, I claim, hockey town due to our, historical, franchise here in Detroit, the Red Wings, and just our neighbor country in Canada right across the border. And so I will pause there and definitely turn over to our three gentlemen, JJ, Malik, and Lydell, to first question, really, just kick it off. Like, first is obviously say your name. When were you all, I know my age some people, but when were you all part of ice hockey in Harlem? And then also just kind of a brief, like, where you are now. So I definitely think that'd be great to kick off, and then we'll dive in a little bit more questions after.
My name is Malik Garvin. I began with ice hockey in Harlem in 1996 when I was 4 years old, and continued in one way or another with the program through college. I'm currently the program director for ice hockey in Harlem.
All right, so I guess Lydell, I'll go next because
you go next, I guess.
Yeah, so I'll be the middleman. And so my name is JJ Velez. I am let's see. For me, I started back in, was it 89 with ice hockey in Harlem. I currently am on the board of trustees for ice hockey in Harlem. For me, I currently live in Detroit, Michigan. I actually don't live too far away from Dexter. And I think that the program is unbelievable, and still to this day. So
I'm Lydell Harrigan. Joined the program same year as JJ, 1989. Today I work for the New York City Police Department. I've been working with them for almost 19 years.
Yeah, and so I forgot. I apologize. So currently, I am the director of public space for Quicken Loans Community Fund, located here in Detroit, Michigan. So,
what drew you to the sport of hockey? Like, why hockey? What kind of initiated you joining the program? And really curious, like, what reception did you receive from family, friends when you started playing hockey, or maybe express why you wanted to play hockey?
So Dexter, I started ice hockey in Harlem with a guy named Dave Wilk, who this was his business school thesis. I met him when I was 19 years old, and we hadn't even gotten on the ice yet. And we were basically begging kids to play. We went to a gym in Harlem with a hockey bag. And I think in the first year, we started that first night with about 9 kids. Those 9 kids went back to their after school program and told all the other kids how amazing and how fun and how thrilled they were to play. And that's really what started this thing. So, our best marketing were these guys. And, they did a great job sharing in their communities this amazing sport and all the great things that came with it. So I've been doing this for a very long time. I'm the chairman of the board. It is a love of mine. This program is my baby. And I'm, honored to be on this call today with these 3 guys. I mean, I met them when they were probably 9 or 10 years old. I met Malik when he was 2 weeks old. And I promised his mom I would make him the best player in the program that we ever had. And by the way, boys, I did. He was much better than you 2 guys, so we can start the smack talking right now if you'd like. But
so what drew me to hockey was this guy named Jose Hernandez. We were in the same PS school. It just so happened that, he was in one 5th grade class. I was in another 5th grade class. He kicks the teacher in the shin. They somehow swap us. In the process of us getting swapped, that's how him and I became friends. And he's like, oh, I play hockey. And I'm like, what's hockey? What do you do? Oh, you skate on the ice. I'm like, I don't know how to skate. I never skated in my life. So, he drew me into the game, and I'm thankful for him, and basically, definitely ice hockey in Harlem for giving me the opportunity to even play, because nobody knew anything about hockey where I grew up. When I looked into it, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm looking into this game on TV on MSG, and I'm like, there's no black guys that play hockey. There's no minorities, so I'm like, I want to speaking to him again. I'm like, are you sure you play this sport right here? And he's like, yeah, come down to Upward Fund, which is PS 96 on 120th Street. Come there and you're going to meet some guys, and we're going to go to Central Park. They try some equipment on for you. And then, ever since then, that was my start.
Yeah, so my story is quite similar to Lydell's. Growing up in Spanish Harlem. For me personally, there's only three places that you end up, right? The first place is on the corner, doing things you're not supposed to. The other place is locked up, and the last but not least is 6 feet under. And so a lot of the people that I know, that I grew up with, some of them are in those places. And so what drew me to the game of hockey was a game of chance, I guess. My mother and my being at the right place at the right time, not really knowing how to handle me, because of growing up in Spanish Harlem back in 87, 88, 89. There weren't many opportunities for Black and brown kids in those days. And so, she heard about an opportunity for ice hockey, that it was free. And so she went to Boys Harbor to do a in-person, tutorial. And I can remember, my mother telling this story, and she continues to tell the story, that she went with a bunch of, friends of hers from the neighborhood, and standing up there talking about ice hockey in Harlem was this white guy by the name of Dave Wilkes, trying to convince all these parents, all these, Black and brown, Black and Hispanic parents, oh yeah, give me your kids, give me your kids to learn how to play a sport. And I just remember my mom coming home and be like, "You're gonna do this. I don't care if you don't want to do it. You're gonna go, and you're gonna love it." And for me, that right there, it changed my life. The things that I have in my life, the woman who I'm married to, my kids, the opportunities that I've seen, is because of this program.
What drew me to ice hockey was my older brother played. So we were always at the rink. My older brother's 8 years older than me, Roger. And I was just always at the rink. And first, I loved the skating part. So I was super young, 2, 3 years old, and just skating really fascinated me. I remember these Fisher Price, I wouldn't even call them skates. They're snap-ons. They attach to the heel and toe of your shoe that I would have those on more than I walked around.
For sure.
First, it was skating and that. Um, and then I became interested in playing, and they didn't have hockey for children that young. And Todd took me out on the ice when I was super young, and I fell in love with it even more then. And then after that, the next year, two other young gentlemen about my age, James and Joseph, twins, who also had an older brother in the program. We started playing together about 4 years old. So that was the start of what is now would be considered the Learn to Skate program. And we all played for a long time, and I still see them around. And so my brother playing drew me to it, and then once I was drawn to it, I just became obsessed with it. I became obsessed with everything, with the skating, with the gear, with the teams. And I'm a huge hockey fan. I'm a huge Rangers fan, but I really just love playing more than anything.
Our country, this year has gone through so much, whether it's, COVID and even, presidential elections, to the topic I want to switch to now is about race. And our country's like, recent racial reckoning we've gone through. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, the role that sports has played. I'm just really curious. I know it's a very sensitive topic, so for those, feel free to volunteer if they want to share. But I'm really curious here about, what, if you did experience any racism on the ice when you were going through the program, or any slurs, or just really curious on how did you deal with race? As you mentioned, obviously the program was very diverse with Black and brown, boys and girls, but in terms of playing other schools or other programs in a sport that we talked about is majority white, just really curious on how did you all navigate race relations as a kid going through the program, and then how did you deal with it, and also what advice would you have for maybe our listeners and people that are participating, our viewers, on how to handle and address those issues of race and race relations.
So during the program, I never really dealt with racism in the program. We played other teams like, DuPont and Washington, D.C., so other minorities. I never really had to deal with it. Once I started playing on a traveling team for Chelsea, which is the Cyclones, I started dealing with it there. Definitely when I went up to Canada, dealt with it there. Then I had to learn how to manage. Up in Canada, you can fight. It's part of the game. You can fight and come back and play the rest of the game. You get 5 minutes, you sit down, you think about it, and you go back. So after probably about the 5th game of me playing juniors in Canada, I had to change it up. So if somebody comes out with some of the races, I can't go out and fight everybody because that's what they want me to do. They want me off the game. And by me doing that and fighting them, they're winning. Yeah, I may knock them out, but they're winning because they just got me off the ice. So, after about the 5th game, I just kind of had to learn how to block it out and just play my game, try to score a goal. And then, that's the best way to give it to them, So, but definitely in the program, Ice Hockey Harlem, I never really dealt with racism. Once I started traveling like to other cities and definitely other countries, that's when I started dealing with it.
I also didn't deal with racism with ice hockey in Harlem. Echoing what Lydell said, for any time with racism, anything, someone's getting on your nerves, the best way to get them back is to put the puck in the net. And I think any coach will tell you that as well. I won't disclose teams or things like that, but I'm younger than these guys, and I did deal with racism as well. First time I was called the N-word was in a handshake line when I was 8 years old. After that, other incidents, I was at a summer hockey camp when I was in high school, and the goalie made monkey sounds at me. I guess he didn't like me hanging around the crease. And also in high school, we're crushing a team 8-0. Kid says to me, "What are you gonna do? Pull a knife out?" When he's next to me on the face-off, you just laugh in his face. We're beating you guys 8-0. It's hockey. It's hockey. There's no place in the game for that. So if that's what you're doing and you came to play, then you're not doing anything right.
Yeah, for me, there's so many examples of how in games and in hockey I had to face racism. I can ultimately pick, a couple of examples, but I think for me the one that sticks out the most, and I know we talked about this, was a summer league game, and it was in New York City, and it wasn't with Ice Hockey in Harlem. To both these gentlemen, I never really experienced racism from players at Ice Hockey in Harlem or through the coaches. Todd mentioned the lens of not seeing color, and some people may think that it's bullshit, but I don't think that for Ice Hockey in Harlem and a lot of the coaches and mentors that we had. But I know for me, one example that comes to mind was, playing in the summer league down in Chelsea Piers, right? And then we were playing a team from Staten Island. It was me and Byrne again, and our goalie was Vaughn Oliver, who was African American. And we were playing the summer league game, and I just remember it was the first time my parents had really come to watch me play, and I can't tell you how long, right? And we were playing this team from Staten Island, and we were just dominating them, and all of a sudden they just started saying and acting pretty racist. And at one point, they threw the puck at the net, and Vaughn froze the puck, and rather than just icing him, what most people do, as soon as a goalie freezes the puck, one of their players just ran him. And at that point, we had enough. And so all of a sudden, we took off the gloves and we started fighting, everybody. It didn't. And so our bench didn't clear, their whole bench clears. And it was me, Bernie, and Vaughn taking on the whole team. And that's what we did. We had each other's back. And I just remember all three of us getting kicked out and my parents just like shaking their heads. And I remember that the parents of the kids from Staten Island were in the crowd saying, "These guys should be locked up," and we're just like, yeah, if we need to get locked up, what about your kids? And so I got stories for days as it pertains to racism, on the ice.
Thank you all for sharing. I definitely love, Todd, if you want to chime in just based on your perspective. Yeah.
I mean, I was on the other side. I experienced anti-Semitism in the Midwest in college. So being behind the bench with these guys. I remember this game that Jay's talking about. I do even remember an incident in a game Lydell was playing. And I mean, we didn't know what to do. I mean, it wasn't, there wasn't the trainings that people have today. We just told the kids to play the game.
Yeah.
We just told them to play the game. And there were, heated exchanges with the coaches, between the benches and with the ref. And, we had their back too. And even after the game, but it existed more often than we probably all want to remember. I think it's happening less today, but unfortunately it still happens. It just takes the leadership of, now Malik running the program and all the coaches to remind the kids that they just have to play. But, the consequences are bigger today. And I'm hoping that changes things. But unfortunately, as we all know, sometimes it doesn't. And, but yeah, I saw it. I didn't like it. And we did our best, and we tried to keep them focused, and we tried to keep their gloves on. And because we wanted them to be the leaders and, and not take it down. But sometimes you have to defend yourself. And, I wouldn't say I ever told them to go do that, but I wouldn't say I was upset when they did.
And in Lydell, kind of want to go back to you a little bit as we're all talking about, race relations, and Todd and, JJ mentioned some, especially the last few months of like how law enforcement, the perception of law enforcement this year. Just curious on like, from your perspective, how you think law enforcement can improve relationships with the communities that they're serving? And I guess like, what have you been doing, hopefully to, improve some of those relations with the communities that you're protecting and serving?
It's got to be, it's a two-way street. So, I'll start with law enforcement. We have to respect the people in the community, just like the people in the community need to respect law enforcement. So it's got to go both ways, and there are some things I see on TV that when the cop does it, I'm first to say that was wrong. And that's not going to be good. It's not going to turn out good. And vice versa with the community. My time working, I used to work in the South Bronx. I don't work in the South Bronx anymore. I now work at headquarters with the police commissioner. So for my time for 12 years in South Bronx by Yankee Stadium, I've treated people with respect. And during my time there, I've never had a complaint. I've never had nobody's never called and made like a civilian complaint against me. I've never been brought up on any excessive force charges because I treat people with respect. Some people, they commit crimes and, that's just how it is. But it's not for me to treat that person any different just because of the crime he's committed or her or she's committed. You treat them with respect. You arrest them, you treat them with respect and you give respect back. Because after I arrested that person on a Monday, Friday, I see this person again, and this person is coming up to me and saying, "Hello, thank you for treating me like an adult and not treating me like other cops." So, I mean, we got to somehow meet halfway. I don't know how that's going to happen because of everything that's going on in the world, but, we as law enforcement need to treat our community with respect and the community needs to treat us. So,
really appreciate you sharing that. And you're right. I think it really goes back to what we were just talking about. You can really translate what you just said, how law enforcement and community and that two-way street is very similar to, when you all were playing other teams, on the rink, like just that level of mutual respect, empathy, and all those things. I think that's how we move forward as a society, as people, as a collective. So I think that applies to any arena. It would seem like the rink was a sanctuary, seems like at some point, but really curious on like what impact the program had on you all.
So I talked a little bit about the impact it had on me, and changing my trajectory in life, right? That was one aspect. But for me, I was privileged enough because of the program to receive a scholarship to go away to boarding school, right? And so that right there changed my whole worldview, right? First, you have the program and playing a predominantly white sport. Let's be real, right? Ice hockey is a predominantly expensive white sport, but being able to do it as being Puerto Rican, right? 100% Puerto Rican, and to do it in the comfort of my community was one aspect of it. But once you take the kid out of the community and drop them in the middle of Northwest Connecticut at a junior boarding school, you know, for me, that changes a lot, right? And so I think, you know, it because of ice hockey in Harlem and having that experience and being able to go away in 7th grade to Indian Mountain School really changed my thought process on a lot of things. You know, it was ice hockey, but for me, I finally came to the realization that there was more than what I knew was out there, right? You know, I got to really um, interact with people who didn't look like me on a daily basis. You know, when I was in boarding school, I got to partake in other sports and do some things that if I was still in Harlem, I would not have the opportunity to do. So I think that was part of it. But I think for me, and I think Lydell and Malik could talk about it, is, you know, it was eye opening, right? You know, I go from living in Harlem where it's 99% Black and brown people to going away to boarding school where I'm maybe 1%, right? It's just opposite. And so I think that's part of it, you know, for me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, ice hockey home, the impact, you know, playing the game, walking to Central Park, walking from Central Park, just walking with the bag and just playing the sport and everything, you know, it's a great impact in my life and definitely, you know, kept me off the street, matured me as a man. Then I had the opportunity to go play hockey in Canada, which I didn't go in 7th grade, but I went when I was about in my late teens, early 20s. So, but just going up there, especially going up to a small town with 4,000 people, you know, I'm from New York City, there's 8.5 million people. And you go to the small town, nobody knows you. They don't like you. One, they don't like you. One, you're Black. Two, you're an American going to a Canadian little small town. After a few weeks, everybody got to know me. They loved me. Everything was great. So, you know, and I think ice hockey in Harlem definitely for that. But, you know, the impact definitely keeping me off the street and everything is definitely all thanks to ice hockey in Harlem.
Similar to JJ, I also went to Indian Mountain, the junior boarding school he went to. But what the program really did for me was it gave me a sense of identity. It gave me something to strive towards. I wanted to be a hockey player. Of course, at one point I wanted to be in NHL, but all along the way, I wanted to be a hockey player. So in elementary school, I wanted to be a hockey player. In middle school, I wanted to be a hockey player. In high school, I wanted to be a hockey player. And playing hockey is a privilege. So to be a hockey player, you need to stay out of trouble. You need to get good grades. You need to work hard on and off the ice. Like Lydell mentioned, with people getting to know him and like him, you have to be able to be a good teammate, get along with people, and go to war with people you might not necessarily like, but most of the time they're your best friends. But it really gave me an identity, a sense of something to strive towards and who I wanted to be and what I wanted to be. And obviously, playing hockey is so great because the qualities that you learn from playing hockey carry over into other aspects of life.
I love that. No, and I think great. No, thank you all for sharing that too. And I think, you know, Malik, kind of want to ask you a follow-up question on that. I guess you said some of the characteristics you learned on the ice was, you know, great life skills as well. What are some of the, you know, maybe some skills that you did learn while playing hockey that are now kind of transferable to, you know, life or just where you are now?
I would say first and foremost, a pretty cliche one is if you fall down, you get up.
Yeah,
right?
for
You're
sure.
gonna fall down on the ice. You're gonna fall down in life. You get up. That's part of it. And then one of my favorite things is hockey's considered shift work, right? You go out there 1 minute, 2 minutes at a time. You just got to take things in life one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, sort of attack it that way and just give it your all. And whatever happens, happens, and then go out and give it your all again.
Kind of going, you know, Malik, I would really want to curious for you too, just personally, what you started, you know, at age 4, skating, getting involved in the program. Now you're actually serving, you know, in a full-time role as a director of programs at Ice Hockey for Harlem. I'm just really curious, like, what drew you back? Like, can you explain a little bit of your journey, how you got back, you know, into, you know, now serving an organization in a different capacity? Oh, it might be on mute. There you go.
What drew me back was that I knew the program existed, was still providing the services that they did. Sports is really my passion. And I worked in business for a couple of years. I graduated with a business degree, worked in business. Then I went and worked in the nonprofit sector for a sports-based youth development organization. And being in the position I am now sort of gives me a chance to put two and two together on that end. And again, the neighborhood has changed, but this program serves a great purpose. And I felt like there was no one better to do the job than me, so I went for it, to be honest. And hockey is truly my passion, and I want to get out there and run every practice for every team. But I'm completely happy organizing it all, making sure it runs smoothly, and like Todd said, seeing the smiles on the kids' faces. We started playing on Saturday. Everyone had to wear a mask. They had to arrive to the rink dressed. They had to get dressed outside. No access to locker rooms. There wasn't one complaint. Everybody had a good time. And the players and parents are very grateful.
And we're lucky, Dexter, our rink's outside, right? So,
Perfect. Yeah.
you know, we're not having a conversation about filtration systems and all these other things people are talking about. And we're very lucky. So we just need to keep our fingers crossed that, you know, we stay out there. And Malik sent some pictures around today, and I mean, the smiles were unbelievable.
Really want to show some of the pictures that was really given to us, you know, of the kids. What we're doing, this conversation all leads back to the future, right? And in order for us to really do what we need to do, you know, ice hockey in Harlem, you know, needs to be here for the next, you know, 30 plus years. And so in order to go about doing so, we definitely need opportunities for young men and women, as you see right here.
What kind of drew you back as a board member, and like, what are you and Todd could fill in, and, you know, Malik, actually all you all can fill in, Lydell, like, what are some of the goals moving forward for ice hockey in Harlem? Like, what we want to accomplish over the next near future, long term, and just really curious on some of the goals you all maybe set out, you know, for the near future.
So I think for me, you know, since I left the program, you know, and I started to become a young professional, I've always tried to figure out, hey, how can I get involved in ice hockey in Harlem, right? You know, I always remember that, you know, the program, the mission, but ultimately the idea was that eventually the program would be given to a former participant to run the program moving forward, you know. And now we have Malik on board as the program director, and me coming on as part of the trustees board. But, you know, for me was always trying to figure out, hey, how do I get back involved? How can I give back to a program that gave so much to me? And so, you know, it all came down to Todd, right? You know, so most recently, my old boarding school, South Kent, I was asked to be part of the board of trustees, and, you know, it's an honor and a privilege. And so I posted it on LinkedIn, and I think within like a day or two, I got this message from Todd, yo, we need to talk. I'm like, oh shit. You know, like, you know, and I'm like, okay, what did I do now? And I've always been trying to canoodle with Todd, trying to do ice hockey in Detroit, or, you know, something like that, or eventually try to be, you know, the executive director of ice hockey in Harlem. And he just said, listen, you know, I'm seeing all the good things that you're doing. You know, I'm really proud of you. I'm not going to cry, Todd, but, you know, I really want you to be, I really want you to be a part of this. You know, I think it's time that we have somebody who was a participant to be part of the board. And my response was, just tell me where to sign up. The thing that really hit home to me, and it was most recently, is that we had a former participant. I posted something, there was a post, and he reached out to me directly. He's like, I have kids now. I want my kids to be a part of this program. And for me, it was an aha moment. We now have generations that want their kids to be part of the program. And the first thing I did was I sent an email to Malik. Malik, we got to get Danny Gonzalez's kids into the program. How do we go doing this? You know? And so that's what for me, that's what drew me back to the program, is making sure that this program lasts for the next generation and the next generation.
I mean, maybe ending with you, Todd, you know, how can, you know, listeners and viewers of this conversation support ice hockey in Harlem? Like, what would be some, you know, action items would you tell our listeners to do?
I appreciate that. Really, we are updating everything about this program, including our website. It's going to be easier than ever to make a donation, to make a targeted donation, to buy Ice Hockey in Harlem merchandise. All that's coming. So we're very fortunate. This program does not have a big budget. Exactly. I love that jersey. This program doesn't, you can buy one on our website. This program doesn't have a big budget. It doesn't have a big endowment. It's one of the things that I would say after 33 years, if there was anything, negative, that I'm sad that we're not at a, with a lot more money in the bank. We've been very much a hand to mouth family still, paycheck to paycheck. We're living donation to donation and event to event, but we always get it done. We always get it done. And we get it done because of the kindness of really the hockey community, whether that's the NHL, the Rangers, the Islanders, the Canadian Society of New York has been probably the biggest and most consistent contributor to this program from the beginning. And and then all the private donations that we get. So there's really no donation too small. And, we really need the help. So any way that people can donate, the simplest way is just go on the website, but any amount of money would be great. We want to keep the kids on the ice. We're facing a lot of challenges this year, like everybody else.
Well, I think, thank you, for all you all for your time today. Definitely, I think a great conversation. That's gonna be first of many as we launch this series, Get Off the Bench, and, having these fireside chats that's presented by Ice Hockey in Harlem. And for those who have not a chance to visit the website, www.icehockeyinharlem.org is where you can find more information about Ice Hockey in Harlem. And also, there's a link there to donate, contribute. So I look forward to having more conversations. Thank you all for allowing me to be part of your family. And thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
See you guys later.
You want to?